Everyone, this is Max at Mekk-Knight TCG. Thanks for joining me in another video. So in this video, we're going over the OCG ban list. It's going to be effective April 1st. This is confirmed. It's not an April 1st joke. So we just want to look at this because this could lead to maybe some implications in our ban list. I'm going to discuss those cards, what's coming off, what might change, what's different in their format, what might happen in our format based off certain card rarities and prices and reprinting. So we'll just kind of go through the list, discuss it and let you know what I think, and I'd love to hear what you guys think about some of these changes. If you're looking forward, if you're scared of certain things coming back, one of the first cards here we're going to jump into does worry me, and we're going to go over this to kind of discuss it. So summon Sorceress from 0 to 3. Now this card will receive an errata in the OCG, so maybe we will get also an errata for this card if that's the case. The main thing they're doing is, if you look at the old text, if this card is link summoned, you can special summon one monster from your hand in defense position to your opponent's zone this card points to. So that's one effect. The second effect is you can target one face-up monster this card points to, plus one monster from your deck in defense position with the same type as that monster to a zone this card points to but negate its effect. You use this effect of summon Sorceress once per turn. So the main thing this is good for is potentially triggering graveyard effects and link climbing. It is a really good card. You can pretty much trigger any card out of your deck by just giving them a monster. And the big thing that they changed with how the new text is working is, instead of this being two separate effects, because the part of the card that was a hard once per turn was the end part of the card. You can only use this part of the card's effect once per turn. So ideally, if they summon a second one, they could potentially use this effect in a similar way to how Isolde works. Most people don't hit the first effect to search, because if they summon a second Isolde, that's the main target that you want to hit. Now what they're doing is they're just making it where everything is part of one effect. So if you hit it once, the effect's done. So I think that's why they're saying, look, it doesn't matter how many you play now because of that. That would be my read on why it's going from 0 to 3 and not like 0 to 1. I still think cards like this can be pretty scary, so we'll have to see on how this works out. In the OCG, I think this could lead to a lot of link climbing, setting up your graveyard. There's some pretty scary stuff that this card can do, and we'll have to see if this card is maybe power corrupt at this point. And also the fact of giving your opponent a monster is still scary. You can potentially give them really scary monsters that actually do something on their field, in decks like Darkwurm or something. But I think you can also just giving them a monster turns off cards like Lightning Storm, turns off Imperm, Gamma, so it does turn off certain cards. So I'm always very weary of giving your opponent monster effects. So it's got good link climbing, good set up graveyard. It's a scary card, so we'll see what happens. Another hit that's happened with some cards coming back, Girsu from 2 to 3. So in the OCG, in TCG, we have this at 3, and now the OCG also has this at 3. For a while, the OCG had Harp at 1, and they brought it back to 3, and then they've been bringing back Girsu as like the kind of combo starter card, over time, where we've always had Girsu at 3, but Harp's been banned, and Harp has now come back to 1 in the last list, so we actually might see that as well come back to 2 or maybe 3 this list. We'll see how quickly they want to progress that, but right now I think all the Orcust cards are off the list, potentially maybe Galatea. I know that was hit, I think, at one point as well in the OCG, so I'm not sure on that one. Next we have Supreme King Dragon Darkwurm. So this card has not been hit for us, but has come back from 2 to 3 in the OCG. Just an overall good pendulum extender, also a dragon and a dark, so all great kind of attributes and typing to kind of work with, as well as like card type. So just like all around, just an overall solid card. I'm not really sure why this was hit in the OCG. If anyone knows, you can let me know in the comments. I'd like to hear what you guys think. There's the new Supreme King support, so maybe that's why they're bringing this back. But I never thought this card was that overall problematic. I'm not sure why they had this hit. Another card coming back from 2 to 3 is Rite of Aramesir. Now for us, the adventure engine was actually never hit, where in the OCG they played it in everything, and were even playing it once everything was at like 1-1. So you only have like 2 to 3 good targets, and then you have like 2 to 3 bricks. So they've really loved this card and playing it over there, where for us they never even hit it and it just phased out of the game. So I do think, kind of seeing that as being the case, I think it makes sense that these are coming back, because it's they are cool engines for people to use and certain decks to use, but overall normal summons are very important in a lot of decks, so it's not the easiest thing to be able to use, and I think it makes sense that it's coming back. So next we have Infernity Launcher from 2 to 3. So this is a very good card for Infernity. Again though, OCG does have Maxi, and I think that's a very big thing for Infernity to have to play around, just because I don't think Infernity can do a whole lot as like kind of like a mid-rangey kind of, you know, or even a control deck. I think it really has to kind of go all out, and I think that's a big issue with Maxi. And even here we're just not seeing it. It's very glass cannon, so I think this card can come back. One thing that's nice is it does help Infernity with sending cards from hand to grave, so clearing their hand. So you just get a really good extender, a very solid card in and of itself. But I do think the archetype is just unfortunately a little bit too weak to be able to utilize cards like this very effectively. So we'll have to kind of see maybe what happens with these, if this is playable or not in different archetypes. Maybe it'll be combined with something else as well. But I think Infernity, in the kind of traditional sense of how it was always played as a combo deck, I don't think we're going to see very much success with that, especially in the OCG. And even if this happened in the TCG, I really don't know if we'd see it. Just to, you know, the limitation of not being able to play hand traps this format, I think would hurt it overall. And just kind of the glass cannon nature, the new support not doing enough to really help the older support. So I don't think we would see this. Next we have Change of Heart from 2 to 3. I think this is something we are going to see the TCG maybe bring this to 2. I don't think they're going to go to 3 right away. I think they will take a slower pursuit of this card, but overall it's a solid card. You know, it's a targeting monster steal where we already have talents, which is arguably one of the best kind of going first, going second board breakers in the game, especially in hand trap formats, but also just a good board breaker in general. So I think if you want extra cards of that, you'd probably play Change of Heart. And a good card, especially in certain formats, can be thrusted for, but I don't know if it's really going to make a difference from 2 to 3. Usually these types of cards make the biggest difference when they go from like 0 to 1. Anything kind of after that point just makes it easier to get to, and maybe as a 3 of, it's, you know, more realistic to get to these monster stealing cards, so that will help with it. But overall, I don't think this will make a huge difference in the OCG format for this, and I don't think it going from 1 to 2 will make the biggest difference for us either. So next we have Ib, the World Chalice Justicar, again a 1/2/2, so it goes from limited to semi-limited. Again, I think these kind of cards, they do the best when they go from 0 to 1, just because like now they're actually playable. Once you get more copies, unless a deck wants to use it as a grind game resource, most decks are probably only going to use this card at 1 to maybe 2 copies at the most, but I don't know if this would be one of the cards that would be kind of a grindier kind of card. It feels like a card you kind of start your combos with and go from there. I'm not sure if we're really going to see this become a 2 of in most decks, unless they're very committed to like the World Chalice cards. Next we have SP Little Knight from 3 to 2. Now I think if this happened in the DCG, it would be a kind of joke of a hit, just because this is kind of what they did with Runic Fountain. Most decks only played 2, and even here most decks only play 2. SP Little Knight is a very expensive card in the TCG, especially, where in the OCG it's quite a bit cheaper, just due to the way they do their multiple rarity like set releases. So that could be maybe part of why they're hitting it. Maybe more people are using it as a 3 of in their deck. I feel like for the most part I only ever see 2 even when I look at the OCG, so I'm not sure why this is the hit. But you know, I think potentially limiting this card I don't think would really hurt the value that much, because most people play it as a 1 of, but there are some decks that want to play it as a 2 of, since they use it going first to kind of play through targeting disruption or other cards, and then they use the second one for follow up on the opponent's turn. So I could see them maybe doing that. I think another potential play would be just getting rid of IP if they're worried about that, as a way to be able to use this on the opponent's turn. But overall, I think this is a very balanced card, a very good card for going second, since it's better going second than going first, but so is utility going first. A very solid card. The only problem with it really is just the price tag is insane, and that's very unfortunate for TCG players. So I really don't think we're going to see this get hit, but I guess there is a potential, and the most I'd ever see them doing with this is putting it to 1, and who knows, maybe we'll get it gets semi-limited hit, which I think would be a joke, since I've never seen a list actually play 3. I think partly due to price, and the other part is that it's not needed. Most people only want it for going first and going second as 2 copies, and not a lot of decks are even doing that. So next we have the Fire King hit. I think in the OCG we are seeing the Fire King deck do better than the pure deck, and I think part of that is just due to the way the deck plays. I think this deck has a little bit better of a time under Maxi due to like Garunix's and other cards being able to trigger on the opponent's turn, where I think the OCG version does struggle a little bit more when it comes to like the pure kind of version of the deck. So we are kind of seeing this hit. In the TCG, we're even seeing this get cut to 2 in people that are playing the Fire King version. And I really don't think this needs to get hit, because right now we have seen that the pure version in the TCG is just better than the Fire King version in terms of its efficiency and optimization and what it can do. Even though I do think the Fire King version seems more fun, and I do wish more people played it. I think the lack of negates, the way the deck plays, it has a little bit more of an issue with Cosmic than some of the Snake Eyes version of the deck. That's the pure version when they played just the field spell. So I think overall I would rather see the Fire King version played, but I really don't think we're going to see any hits. And even if it does go to 2 for us, I don't think that really does much, since a lot of lists have optimized to cut this down to 2. Next we have Snake Eye Ash from 3 to 2. I don't know if we will see that. If it is, it's the smallest consistency hit to the deck that they can do. I think I would rather actually see this go to 1 than 2, making it maybe a little bit harder to just get follow-up with Ash. Searching Ash, you'd have to go Ash to search like Oak or something to bring this back. Where if you just have this, you still get another card. I feel like this is very much a slap on the wrist hit. And I do think if they were to hit Ash for us, I think we would maybe see it be a hit that goes to 1 if they were to hit it. And I think that does something. It's not only a consistency hit. It does make the deck weaker to cards like Droll, since you're less likely to open Ash. Might have to open Bonfire more to get it, and different cards. So it might make the deck play a little differently. Not by much, but just, making it potentially weaker to other cards, which isn't necessarily amazing, but this deck is pretty hard to hit, especially from a TCG perspective due to the pricing on a lot of the cards. Kaiser Colosseum being hit, or going, from 3 to 2. We have this card actually banned in the TCG, and I don't think that's going to change, and I kind of hope not. I don't really like cards like these. It's kind of like a worse version of the Mystic Mine card. Overall they are kind of hitting this down. I don't actually remember the reason for why this was a problem in the OCG, so if anyone knows, I want to leave that in the comment. I did hear it in a video I watched, I just don't remember. So I'd love to know why that is. And then next we have Extravagance from 3 to 2. The OCG does tend to hit their kind of generic searching cards more than we do. I think there could be a reason to hit these types of cards, just kind of limiting the generic consistency that decks can use. But overall, I do think that Pot of Desires and Pot of Extravagance are definitely the harder ones to play in a lot of decks than Pot of Prosperity, due to the fact that you don't actually get to choose the cards you banish, where Pot of Prosperity you do. So I think that's a big thing. Also, you do get to choose between 3 and 6. So you could always use this as like a just kind of neutral replacement of just banish 3, and depending on your deck, you'll probably be fine. And most of the time though, you will go for 6 to get the 2 draws. So I don't think they're going to do this in the OCG, or in the TCG, because I don't think this deck sees enough play, and the decks that can utilize this card, I think generally do need the boost when it comes to why they're playing it. So really the only pot card I see them hitting in the TCG is probably Pot of Prosperity. I do think that card should go to 1. I think even though it's not really a problem right now, we have seen that card be huge for just adding so much consistency to the decks. It lets you get into your power cards going second, any of your major board breakers that you might be searching for going first. You can either get your combo pieces to combo off if you don't have it, so it's a huge consistency starter. But if you can do your whole combo, you can literally use this at the end once you've thinned your deck out to draw into potential floodgates or other cards you're looking for to kind of seal the deal against your opponent. So I do think Prosperity should be a card that goes to 1, but due to the kind of lack of play right now, I don't think we're seeing it. But if we do see a hit like Ash to like maybe 1, maybe we would see Prosperity kind of fill in those spots potentially. Next we have Tidal from 0 to 1. So they are kind of slowly releasing the Dragon Rulers. I do think that Tidal is probably the best out of the ones that are left, being like a Foolish for the deck and water decks. But overall, like we've seen, I think Master Duel completely release all of these, and the deck is just not the menace it used to be. The main thing that Dragon Rulers had is that it was a grindy deck that could keep playing over turns and turns. Now that's kind of an afterthought in decks for modern Yu-Gi-Oh! A deck is not good because it can grind. It's just an aspect that kind of adds on top of what the deck already does when it can grind. So I do think the Dragon Rulers have been power crept. I think we will see the Dragon Rulers. Make sure they're at least all at 1 at this point. I think that's just Tidal. Maybe Redux is still on the TCG list. I'm not sure off the top of my head, but I do think we'll probably see all the Dragon Rulers come back to at least 1 at this point. And I think Tempest might even be at 2 for us. I think that will be kind of what happens in our list for this card, but I don't think it's anything to really worry about because I think these cards are pretty power corrupt in what they do. Next, we have Wanted, Seeker of Sinful Spoils. Went from 3 to 1. I think it's a pretty big hit. Now, I think one thing for us to consider is, one, this has not been reprinted in the TCG. I'm not sure if it has in the OCG, but then there's also the rarity model. These cards are quite expensive, you know, starting at like 30, 40, 35, I think to 40 on release and all the way up to like over 100. And a big part of the consistency of the deck. I do think Wanted, Seeker of Sinful Spoils to 1 does make sense as a hit to hurt the Snake Eye decks, because one thing that this card does that's a little ridiculous over destroying Witch is this is literally getting you access to Witch. It's a quick play spell, so if it is the only card in your hand, you could use it in the draw phase to avoid droll. You can also use it as an extender play if they droll you on Ash to get your search so you don't lose the card. Plus, it gives you an extra draw in later turns. So I think this is a really good card, and it is really annoying that it's just Black Witch with a draw. So you're kind of mitigating the send cost, and sometimes the send cost doesn't even mean anything in the Snake Eye deck. I don't see this card getting banned in the TCG just due to how it connects the decks, and I do think they would want to reprint this before they touch it. So I really don't think we're going to see this happen in the TCG. And then we have There Can Be Only One from 2 to 1. So now it's at 1 in both lists. I do really like this. I think Floodgates are very annoying, especially in multiples when they're much easier to draw into. And because the problem with Floodgates is either you play against a deck that utilizes Floodgates the whole time, and it's just a very stunning, kind of boring deck to play against in general, because decks that limit what you try to do as like their main strategy, I think are very frustrating. But overall, I do think there is a place for potentially these cards to be banned since they are frustrating to play against, but I think you could argue that there is a potential place in the game for cards like these. So very much limiting what you can draw into with these going from 3 to 1, I think is a huge aspect, because I think the big thing with these cards too, it's not that they're just used, you know, to stop your opponent from playing. It's that a lot of times they're used in the side deck when you know you're going first. So going first is already such a big advantage, and the fact that you can also draw into your combo and this card to lock your opponent out, I think is the problem when it comes to these types of cards. And unless we see like maybe a change in the side deck with how, you know, being able to play cards like these work, or how side decking works, where you play these kind of non-games because you're both trying to draw your blowout cards, I think limiting these at the very least is a good way to kind of try to stop these cards from being played as heavily when going first. But I do think there is a little bit of a difference when it comes to these continuous Floodgate cards versus normal traps, especially with decks like Labyrinth that can search them out, or Thrust that can get normal traps. So I think with these continuous traps, they're not searchable. You put them to 1, you do see them a lot less when they're played against you, and I really do like that. So that's just the OCG list. I'm not going to get too much into other TCG hits. We'll probably make that into a different video. But let me know what you guys think about the list. Is there anything that you think is a cool hit? Is anything a weird hit? You know, is there something you're excited about coming back? Is there something you feel that the OCG should have brought back that they didn't? You know, let me know what you guys think, and I'd love to hear it in the comments, and I will see you guys in the next video.